display of the voters register. 2, there has been a lot of things that have been done above board, particularly the roping in of partners and stakeholders in the process. However, there are certain areas which have still raised questions, particularly the area of transferring the focus of electoral vote from the ballot to the register, which leaves it largely at the discretion of the presiding officers and the electoral officials in charge. That has been a question.
Can you explain that a little bit? It's not very clear. Transferring, what do you mean by... Well,
the focus. Earlier on, what has been the practice is that you need a voter's card to vote. But today is that what is supposed to be is the voters register.
Yes.
That is really the primary basis for the vote.
Yes.
But that again is mitigated by the fact that Uganda has lacked a national identification card which would be used to verify the voter's roll. That is an area. 2, we have looked at it from various aspects. The other has been, as Bishop had rightfully said here, the possibility of violence from the utterances of certain leaders. And the violence that we have noted so far has been sporadic, limited to small groups of people, and largely an intra-party affair.
Intra-party.
Intra-party.
Internally on the side of parties, not between parties.
Not inter-parties.
Not inter-party, yes.
And we have noted that this in itself has snowballed into various issues. One, the inter-party nominations have been very, very intense. And we noted that the NRM, out of the inter-party process and the violence that followed, or the intensity of the campaigns, ended up with what they have to deal with, a new baby called the independence.
Right.
Which is troubling, has been troubling them. The IPC, likewise through the process, has had to deal with the splits and a lot of violent and non-violent conflict based on its nominations. It is not the same thing that started. We saw the withdrawal of UPC and a few other people. To the UPC itself, internally has had to deal with the problem of a massive walkout of MPs who lost out due to the party nominations, intra again. And lastly, the DP ended up in court over the same issue of intra-party conflict rather than inter-party. On that note, we have also thought that the Electoral Commission deserves a pat on the back for having provided the timetables for presidential candidates to campaign without encountering each other, and hence reducing the possibilities of conflict. Now, that has largely led to a great reduction in the numbers of cases of conflict recorded. And as you may be aware, most of the conflict that arises out of political campaigns normally focus on or arise from the presidential competition. Parliamentary elections are normally limited to a small geographic area in scope, and at most times have very little ramifications nationally. But the place where people focus most of their sight, and this is not a scenario that is exclusive to Uganda, you find that the parliamentary the presidential process of election and result is normally where there could be any conflict. But based on certain historical facts that we have viewed around the region also, we find that so far, based on what we have on the table, the likelihood of violence is actually very limited. A lot of the violence that has followed all over the region has been based on, or has really mobilized off one major factor: referenda. That right. Normally seems to confirm violence in in East Africa, within the region.
Right.
Late last year, or sometime mid last year, Tanzania held its first referenda ever.
Yes.
National referenda.
Yes.
And subsequently a general election.
Yes.
And the violence that followed was unprecedented in Tanzanian history. Tanzania has had the best record of democratic handovers since independence, and largely not because it had the best system, but largely because of the individual character and the vision that Julius Nyerere,
the
founding president, put together.
Right.
Kenya had a referenda in 2005, and what followed in 2007 is obvious.
Yes.
And after that, there was another referenda in 2010.
Yes.
And the country is actually tottering on the brink of anything could happen to Kenya today. Burundi has had 4 referenda, but Burundi has been torn by incessant conflict through the years. It has had 4.
Yes.
Rwanda likewise has had intense 4 referenda, and that has also been marked by periodic, almost endless violence throughout that region.
Right.
Uganda too, during the period of 2000 and 2005, had 2 referenda.
Yes.
But at that time there was largely a lot of conflict in the north. It was intense. It was at its most intense height.
Yes.
And so far there has been no referenda which can be used to stoke or to mobilize emotions and momentum towards that kind of thing.
Right.
Now, political violence normally mobilizes off something probably 2 or 3 years or a year before the election.
Right.
Now, based on those simple facts, we find that the likelihood of violence is not, it's unlikely.
Right.
It is unlikely. If it was to occur, it would occur maybe of other reasons other than what has been so far. So in that regard, we have hope that the election will be will be free, fair, and peaceful.
Well, very interesting remarks there. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. It's the eve of the election day in Uganda. We're asking what the final take on the exercise is by religious leaders and observers. We have in the studios Bishop Zach Niringye, Chairman of the Interreligious Council Task Force on the 2011 election, and Mr. Gwada, Ogot from the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda. You'll be able to call in later and ask questions. Bishop, do you agree that there's not going to be violence after the election results are announced?
That there will be no violence is a choice that we all must make. I always hesitate to predict or not predict. I think we're very clear that we need to encourage people to work for peace, to work against violence.
Right.
And therefore, the answer to you is everyone needs to work positively. Everyone needs to be hopeful and therefore work with that hope. In other words, every citizen needs to play their part in ensuring that it is peaceful. The security agencies need to work in a way that ensures that they maintain law and order in ways that ensure that it is peaceful. The Electoral Commission. So once every one of us keeps that commitment and works that way, of course that will be the case. Now, we have already seen situations where there have been some eruptions, and we can explain why that is the case, where politicians have become insensitive to the interests of the other politicians, where the use of young people who are unemployed, underemployed, the use of money, politicians who are in places for whom this is a do or die affair. We are already beginning to see some mobilization. We say to the politicians, please, for goodness sake, this is only an election. All right? We say to the citizens, please, this is only an election. It is an important election. Go out and vote. Vote peacefully, and wait. Certainly, the one you vote for may win or may lose. And that's fine.
Only two possibilities.
That's absolutely fine. So the attitude, so we really, I am not one of those ones to dwell on predictions. I simply want to say, hey guys, let's all work for peace. We will get peace if we all work for it. And therefore to encourage a positive action and to really say to the people, stop fearing, get away from, there are many people who I speak to and they are afraid. No need to fear. Do what you must do. Play your part. All right? Every section of the society, desist from language that incites, desist from actions that incite. Any of our society, Electoral Commission, officials in the districts, at the polling centers, the constables, the police, every one of us, let's do everything in a way that works for peace. Then I can assure you, when we all do that, we will have total peace all over. We will have no localized, So I think it is important to be able to speak to people to say, you don't just get peace, you work for peace. Obviously. And peace is the way to work.
Obviously, you're speaking like a preacher, Bishop Zach Niringye, tonight. No faults with that. You're not reading the story, but we've got from Mr. Gwada that he doesn't think there's going to be violence. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. It's the eve of election day in Uganda. After a long wait, it's finally the day tomorrow morning. Stay tuned. We're going for a break. We'll be back.
Let's offer you a credit card with real value and reward.